welcome to Beauties and Beasties, the independent pest podcast for the UK.
Hello. How are we all doing? Straight away, on mute. The start as we mean to go.
I could just hear some very loud children getting stuck for whatever reason. Literally, as the credits stopped, they started. I was like, "Oh, here we go.
This is it. This is where it goes."
Just been reminded that I'm on here. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing very well. You sound a lot more cheery since last time we spoke. I think the last time we properly, well, of course, we did the podcast before the last time, but I think the last time we spoke on the phone, it was as I was driving back from the Milton Keynes Arena, and you were dying, weren't you? You were not you're not in a good way.
Yeah, so everyone thinks I'm like teetotal, and I'm not. I just don't drink very regular. I'll drink if it's appropriate. So like Pest tech dinner would probably be it. Weddings, funerals, christenings. Well, not even funerals because everyone fights at them, don't it? But weddings, christenings, stuff like that, I'll have a drink. Joyous celebrations. So the problem is it knocks the living daylights out of us, and I suffer badly with the old down in the dumps the next day. Like I definitely need someone to cuddle us, tell us I'm all right, and remind us that life is not. Yeah. I'm like, I promise you, if I drink the next day, I'm like examining my life decisions when I was 13 and how it affects now and stuff like that. It takes several days to get over it.
I call that the beer fear. That's the beer fear. You know,
it's horrific. 100%. Yeah.
What did I say? What did I do? You know, who did I insult? Oh dear. I'm too old for this shit, man. I'm too old for this shit. Yeah. I can't be dealing with that level of anxiety in my life anymore. Oh dear. But since then, how are you doing? You had anything exciting?
Yeah, do you know, we've had a really interesting week. We dealt with we're halfway through a big drain job for a potential new client, but it was really interesting. Like really interesting. There was just loads. There's loads to look at, loads to do, long term. Water authorities involved, other businesses involved, etc. Like I won't go into it because it would take all night to talk about it, but it was just a really interesting job. It's interesting to see how different firms, different companies see each other, and how different pest control firms see each other, and how they, at that different level. It was really interesting. And then I've sent a lad up to Dale with his bird of prey. He's been up in Scotland for a week. With Billy McPherson from Scottiga, who was on, and I think he's had a brilliant week. You can tell it's one of them weeks, and you come back and you've just got 6 million ideas, and you're so much further on because you've had the right person to push you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So it's up to him now to sort of seize the opportunity that he's been given with that knowledge and make the most of it. But really impressed with him this week. Really proud of him. Really proud of them. Boys have done good. Everything's done good. Having a few thoughts about the business because I'm sick of giving me money to the tax man. Like he takes that much, it's almost not worth doing. I promise you, it's like it's not. Stand there and think, what's the point?
Spend it all before you get told of it.
The problem is if you're making a bit and you spend a bit, you get used to it. And I'm quite a content person. Don't need a huge amount, and stand there thinking, I don't know. I'm going to have a review of. I'm going to do some bean counting. That's what I'm going to do. Some proper bean counting, and there's some big decisions to be made. Well, they're not other the tiny decisions, aren't they? But in my terms, they're big.
But they're big to you. That's the important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all relative, isn't it?
It is exactly.
It's all relative. Yeah, and obviously never a better time to have this conversation than the guest that we've got coming on, because that's his bag now, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that.
What have you done this week, though? Quickly before we move on, what have you done this week?
Actually, so I've had a really sort of admin heavy week this week, which has been kind of nice, actually. So here then, everywhere got to just tied up. This has probably been a week for me of just tying up a lot of loose ends, but also just setting things together for 2026. So basically, just starting my projects list, the things that I want to look at, the projects I want to potentially start, all for next year, and getting those all in place. So I got some really exciting things mentally lined up. I'm hoping that they come to fruition, because there's some really, really good fun things that can work with that. And we've spoken about bits and bobs on these before, but nothing happens quickly in the corporate world. So I'm budgeting on things happening next year, but some really, really good time just sat. It sounds boring, but with spreadsheets and planning and Gantt charts and everything, and getting a sort of like clearing the wood for the trees, so to speak, and being able to actually get a good idea of what next year holds. So yeah, watch this space. Could be a good hoot.
Very
That makes me
interesting.
sound like a really boring bastard. I'm really sorry.
I can't lie to you. It sounds like my idea of hell. It sounds like the most boring week of your life. Yeah.
And I spoke to Lawrence. I'm going to be on a couple more of the, the on the road days and circuits next year. So keep an eye out for me, because I really miss the lecturing. So I'm going to try and take every opportunity to get back down in amongst, the circuits as best I can next year in the UK, because it's right on my doorstep. So yeah. There we go. Right, but with that, talking of spreadsheets and planning and future-proofing stuff, should we bring on our guest?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll press the buttons if you'd like to introduce to us Mr. John Dickinson, or not Dixon,
Good
Dickinson,
evening.
sorry, Dixon. Oh, that's good. This is why I usually leave this bit to Sean. I just can't talk propers. So, John, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. This is a way of spending a Friday evening, isn't it?
It definitely is. You can get yourself a nice glass of vino and, just pretend like you're down the pub. There we go. Absolutely done. So, John, can you just let everyone know who's listening to this just a little bit about your journey? Maybe, before you got into pest control, what was the trajectory of your life that led you towards pest control? Because very few of us wake up one day deciding that we are going to be pest controllers from the age of 18. There's usually a large segment of life that interposes, you to pest management.
Well, that's very true, isn't it? It seems most people sort of fall into pest control, and I was no different. I'd always been involved in business. Well, I say that I went to business college, and then I had another business at a very early age. So I actually haven't been I think I've been in employment in my whole career, something like 2 years. So so I was at a period where I wasn't in any work, and I had been in sales, and I was a bit frustrated with that. So I wrote to an environmental consultant, because I was always into falconry, and asked them if they had any vacancies. And luckily enough, it's funny how doors open. He looked at on my CV. This is in the days, by the way, where you send a letter. Can you remember that? And I sent my CV to this guy, and at the bottom it said hobbies, and I put falconry. And he happened to read that, and he happened to write back. That's a lot of effort. And he wrote back saying, I don't have any vacancies or any opportunities for you, but I noticed you do falconry, and did you know they use them on waste sites, and did you know one is opening a mile from your house? And it was sort of a bit of a shock moment. I went to that site. I wasn't working at the time, but I did have a falcon. and I just made a nuisance of myself. And I bidded for a contract which happened to come up at the same time on a council site, and this was a private site. I mean, we are talking 1993, by the way, guys. And I was a young lad in those days. What's that, 25? And I bidded for this contract and kept making a nuisance of myself at the waste site, flying the bird free of charge. And I ended up being given both contracts pretty much at the same sort of time. And because I'd been in business before, it wasn't scary for me. It was something I knew and understood. So I set up NBC, and here's something. Everybody asked me, and not many people realise. Some people say it stood for. There was a joke at a period where NBC people said stood for nobody cares, but that was far from the truth. But it stood for native bird control, because I had a passion for peregrines, and I would fly peregrines, whereas most people doing this sort of work, Christ, there wasn't many Harrishawks then. They were about $2,000 each, so they were flying eagle owls and stuff like that, stuff which was just not going to work. And
huge.
The business grew from there, because I immediately had to employ somebody. I think the guy gave the private company only would give me the contract if I demonstrated a contingency capability. I didn't talk like that in those days. Nearly said a resource that if I was ill, someone would be able to cover. And so I had to employ excess staff. And the business grew from there. I promoted the business. It was at a good time in the waste management industry. They were privatizing it. And environmental legislation was getting stricter. So there was a lot of opportunities. The difficulty for me is that a lot of people, when they're starting, was I couldn't. I only really took on large contracts where they would employ someone for 5 days, because I couldn't employ someone for 2 days, because what was I going to do with them for the other 3? There wasn't the subcontracting sort of community there is now. So the business, so I sort of latched onto these corporate organizations and grew with them until we were operating over the whole country. And the way it progressed from bird control to pest control was these waste sites. I only had so much opportunity within the waste management industry. There's only so many bird sites that wanted bird control, but they all wanted pest control, and we had someone on site. They all wanted large volume fly spraying as well, was a big thing for a period. So the company had to become a pest control company. And that's how it was for probably 10 years, from sort of 93 to 2003.
So I have a couple of questions. I mean, straight off the bat. Launching, you would have said that at the age of 25. So, and starting your own business, just flat off the back. I mean, that is a fairly bold move. Let's not beat about the bush, especially, in 93, which was, internet is literally only just starting to take root. It's not like you can go online and say, how do I start a business? What made you decide, I'm not going to sort of like ride someone else, I'm not just going to take a paycheck. I want to do this myself. What was the thought process with that? Because it's scary.
Well, there wasn't one, because if there was, I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, you have to, like I say, it was quite normal for me. I had my first business when I was 19, so it wasn't, and I had a period of employment that I hadn't particularly enjoyed. So it was quite a straightforward process. And I had, I keep speaking to people. I've been so lucky. I've been flattered by employing a lot of very good people over the years, and I often those people. I spoke to one today actually, and I said, why don't you do it yourself? And they've just got too many responsibilities, there's too much at risk. Well, I had nothing to risk in those days, so it was an easy decision.
I mean, sorry, I'm just being distracted by a party trying to.
And I would say those people, it's unfortunate because those people would be very successful, and I'm sure do very well.
So, I mean, again, it's boggling the mind to launch straight in to do these things and to launch these companies. And as you say, there's a lot of people who are out there who are looking to, who probably could set up their own businesses, and they are intellectually, let's say, at a place where they could do that thing, but probably not there emotionally. They don't want to take that risk. So, from someone who was from an entrepreneur at a very young age, what advice would you, especially, the market is in such a turbulent condition at the moment, and there's a lot of opportunity for folks there to cut out and do their own thing. So what would be your bit of advice for people such as you were, when you were 19, 25? What would be the advice you could give someone about starting off?
Remember the 7 Ps.
Okay.
Let's see if anyone knows the 7 Ps. Someone must know the 7 Ps.
Piss poor performance.
What's that?
Proper planning prevents a piss poor performance.
Good man. Absolutely that. Over the years, in the early days, I had to learn through mistakes and made a lot of mistakes. And I was in business and doing NBC for 30 years, and it only really felt in the last 5 I got it really right. But you have to always have a plan, because you can't measure success or performance if you don't know where you want to get to. You can't create a plan. You've got to have objectives. You can't create a plan if you don't know where you want to get to. You can't measure success if you don't know. Imagine a game of football with no goals. How and so I think for anyone thinking of going into it, you talk about risk, and but it's people. There are many people who are very good at what they do, and if they just put their mind to it, would do very well. But they need a decent plan. They need to understand where they want to get to, and create a plan of how they want to get there. And if they do that, they're managing the risk, aren't they? I'm not a gambling man, so I don't understand those people who put money in a slot machine. But they would say I am a gambling man because I have taken my whole career taking risk. But it's measured risk when I've assessed the situation, I've thought about it, and I'm. It's a good job I put some paper down and the bird hit it. Did you hear that?
Yes. A crap loud enough to be audible across the nation. But I don't get. So I mean, like I said, it's quantifiable risk at the end of the day, isn't it? It's measurable, and I suppose part of the skill comes in being able to identify that risk. Because in order to quantify it, in order to be able to make it a measurable risk, you've got to be able to first see it and understand it. Otherwise it's invisible to you. So yes, I mean, Sean, you've got the frowny face of deep concentration going on there.
You said you started when you were young, and it always makes me ask this question: do you have to be born an entrepreneur? Can someone be taught it, do you think?
I think the biggest skill of an entrepreneur is being able to identify the skills of others and able to manage their performance. Because when I think of my career, it's been there's been obviously different teams during that process, and I was lucky enough to work with some very good people who I was able to put together in a team in a motivated environment most of the time to perform at the level that the business needed, and to just be able to share the journey and get the buy-in of the people to come on that journey with me, which isn't all easy, and isn't, or it's not easy, and you don't achieve it all the time.
Can
But
you
I
be
think
taught that?
the entrepreneur.
Can you be taught that, or do you have to be born that?
Pardon?
Can you be taught that skill, or do you have to be born that? Does that make sense?
I think so. I don't think there's I don't think there's anything. We've all worked with people, managers who are able to make a team work. I noticed someone put somewhere on a comment.
Yeah,
there was nothing there. The thing is, there is nothing wrong with working for someone if you're valued, and that's absolutely true, isn't it?
Yeah.
The valued member of staff is hopefully going to perform and give a return to the business, because I'm afraid I think of things very logically, which is probably the difference, which is probably what where some people will get emotional about something, and so a member of as a business leader, you're trying to optimize your teams, and hopefully that you can create a win-win environment.
See, I agree with you, but it brings me to a conversation that Hugh and I have all the time, and we have totally different views on this. So it'd be interesting to know your thoughts. Like, I think you can be taught to be a manager. I don't think you can be taught to be a leader. I think it's intrinsically within you.
I would disagree. I mean,
you disagree as well, so don't worry. I'm usually on the other side of the world.
I think people are intrinsically better or more natural born leaders than others, but it is something that can be learned, or more specifically, you can learn not to be a bad leader. I would say probably the other thing. You might be born to be a good leader, but you can learn to not be a bad leader or a bad manager. You can avoid those pitfall traps.
I can only give you my experience as an employer looking for leaders. A lot of people didn't necessarily, when I was, I didn't, a lot of people didn't know that I was the MD of NBC, because I wasn't particularly active in the memberships and things like that. But I was quite keen for my staff to fill those roles sometimes. So if I was employing, I think you're right, Sean, in that. Well, I think you're both right. There you go. I'll sit on the fence. Because if I was employing someone to take a leadership role, there was definitely people that as soon as they walked in the room, had an aura, an empathy, a presence that was engaging. And there was others who the back of the hairs on the back of your neck might stand up and be quite confrontational. So I think there are people who will respond perhaps to the training. So I think people can be, there's got to be training and support to help people be the best version of themselves they can be. But you can't put a round peg into a square hole, said the actress to the bishop.
Yeah, I just always think if you've taught someone to be a leader, I know it sounds weird, but if you've taught someone to be a leader, they're not a leader, are they? Because they're following your instructions. I always think a leader has the ability to to make his own decisions and go and sort of paddle his own canoe, and then people come with them or not?
Well, you're talking special forces. I'm not
No,
sure
no.
all leaders want should be. And that's perhaps the difference between a leader and an entrepreneur, because I'm not sure we all have to operate to a set of parameters. And even as the principal of the business, you're operating to a set of parameters: what is acceptable, what's not, what is legislation, what is. So we all are constrained by that environment. So it doesn't really matter whether you're the MD or a team leader. You're still leaders, and whilst you want some independent thought, that's got to be within the parameters of the SOPs or the brand, actually, that the company is wanting people to operate in.
See, to my mind, it's a lot more simple than that. You can boil it down to the difference between a manager and a leader is a manager tells you to do something and you do it, and a leader asks you to do something and you do it. It's that difference in context and tone. You don't have to be if it's a leader, you don't have to tell people, you don't have to enforce the action. All you have to do is ask, and people will be happy to do that thing.
And actually, Alex, that's really good, because what's in a title a lot. So the difference with NBC was I never worked for Rentokil, never wanted to, and what I observed was every pest control business seemed to be a simile of Rentokil, because the directors had worked there at some point or whatever, and you couldn't put a fag packet between them, a fag paper between them, and so we would deliberately try and be different because we were operating on a national level, so we didn't have that much competition. So at the time, Rentokil, Ecolab, Mighty. Oh well, the client would go from one to the next, to the other, to the other, to the other, and we thought, well, fuck this, let's give them something different. So we would deliberately go out of our way to be different, because the rule of averages were we would stand out. The other thing was the competition for staff, and we wanted to address that. So it's interesting that you say the difference between a manager and a leader. We didn't have managers. I don't think there was any, and they were team leaders. And that was a conscious decision, because we didn't want. It felt that as soon as someone got the title of a manager, they started managing, stopped leading, stopped wanting to do the work. So we didn't have managers; we had team leaders. And these people, then you could see them. They operated in the way that the business needed them to operate as a leader, as this something special, like you say, special forces type thing. Someone special in the area who would lead the people and make executive decisions and feel empowered to do that. And by turning things on their head and doing that, we didn't have surveyors, we had contract managers, because we didn't want them just surveying, selling and fucking off. We wanted them to manage the client relationship. So we tried to do things differently, but that's absolutely right, the difference between manager and leader. Boy, if you're going to call someone a manager, don't be disappointed if they stop leading.
Yeah, I mean, it is a point, and someone said there, leadership comes from the heart, management comes from the head. I'd argue maybe a bit of both, but the comments
from someone who knows, I should say.
Billy makes a really interesting comment here, and I'll read it out for you. He says, "Do you ever feel there was a time where your business was growing to the point where you felt that you were losing your core values? I think many of the nationals go down a dark path when they get to a certain size, and it becomes about revenue first and service last." And
well, there's a few ex-members of staff on here, so you might want to ask them. But I didn't. I didn't feel that. You know, we were trying to create something good and different. So we were very engaged with the process, and we would so the brand values were all that's another interesting topic. So the brand values came about by trying to create a difference. So we needed to differentiate ourselves from Ecolab, Rentokil, Mighty, like I say. So and we understood what we wanted to stand for. So we introduced these set of brand values, and I strongly recommend people. I've been talking to some businesses and advising them recently. And it's the easiest way to protect your identity is to give yourself just 4 brand values and live by them and put them everywhere. We had them embroidered on our sleeves. We had them on the vehicles. We had them on the stationery. We put it everywhere to make sure that people understood it. And it comes from when I started, I learned that if I kept telling everybody I was professional, sooner or later they'd start to believe it. And if you keep shouting these brand values and keep delivering and talking about these brand values, not only do you believe it, your staff believe it, and your clients believe it. So, but it has to be understood. And when we gave inductions, part of the induction process was I would do it whenever I could, a presentation, and I would deliver the brand values to those new recruits because I wanted them to know that it came from, the top, as it were. And it's what, and if we weren't achieving it, we wanted to know about it.
So this is an interesting thing, and I think a lot of small micro businesses probably struggle with this because they've never had anyone teach them or show them or tell them. But the core difference, and I'm going to step back to step forwards into this, the difference between sales and marketing. Everyone understands sales. Sales is selling your service, but it's distinct from marketing. People assume that marketing is just letting people know what your prices are on there, letting people know what your costs are. But marketing falls into this, as you say, these 3 pillars of your branding, which is your purpose, your position, and your personality at the end of the day. And it's conveying that message. It's not selling yourself, it's letting people in the market know who you are and how you exist. And so when we talk about brand values and when we talk about company ethics and stuff like that, I think it probably doesn't hit with a lot of people, a lot of my businesses, because how do you do that? What is your company ethos, if you were to sort of like pin that on your lapel? Or how do you go about figuring out what that is? It's a very sort of abstract question. I think a lot of people struggle with answering. I mean, Sean, just very quickly, what's your ethos? What's your company ethos?
I can tell you now, our business model was, and probably is really, if you rang Rentokil and they said no, we would say yes. So like, they didn't touch honeybees, so we did that. They wouldn't do a drain survey, so we did that, because the thought process for us, it wasn't an ethos or a value. It was quite simple that if the experts in pest control said that they weren't good enough to do it, then we could say yes, and then we could charge a premium for it. So we built a business around like what I call everyday work. And then we try to give the lads something, a higher ticket item that they can get the teeth into and become involved with, that they can have as their thing. So like when a drain survey comes in, it's like, go speak to him over there. I can remember a lesson off a farrier called Hugh Dyer. And when you're a farrier, the first job you get is clenching up. It's a job no one wants to do. It's a shit job. It's hard work, and but you've got to do it. And he always said, as a boss, he would turn up, and the customer who was paying good money would say, "I want you to clench that up. I'm paying the boss." And Hugh's response was always the same: "I can do it, but that lad there's doing it 10 times a day. He does it better than me." if you want it done and you want it done nicely, I'm not being an arse, but that young lad there is probably better than I am because he's doing it more than us. And people would immediately gel with that, and they would get a relationship with a young lad, and they'd be comfortable with him, and they wanted to see him succeed. So my mindset was always, if I can give the lad something where a customer asks us and I can turn around and say, you're speaking to the wrong person, you need to speak to him over there, I thought it would promote, and it probably does. It promotes confidence within your customers. But if I'm dead honest, the value thing is something that I've thought about a lot. But one of the big things I've always struggled with is, and John will probably tell me better on this, should you pick the 4 values you're good at or the 4 values you're not? Do you double down on? So if you're
pick the 4 values you're good at that the customer will buy.
Yeah, but so say for instance, you've got a team sitting behind you, right? They're very professional. They turn up on time. And that's great. So you go, right, professional timeliness, that could be our core values. But what they're not good at is thinking outside the box. So do you then turn around and say, actually, we're going to have thinking outside the box as a core value because I'm going to drill it into them and try and improve on their negatives? Or do we pick up, do we run with the best, or do we try and improve the worst, if that makes sense?
So I've got just the thing for you, Sean. So I've built a exercise to help the new project that I'm working on is designed to support people like yourself in this sort of situation and help go through an exercise of creating a business plan that helps you identify some values, some key points of difference, because you said professional. Well, so is everybody. Well, at least they're going to say they are. You know, we need to, and it's not until you give some quality time and some thought, some deep thought to your business that you are able to identify these things. You can't. So you turn around and say, "How do you come up with these core values, Alex?" It's a whole process. You can't. You're absolutely right. You're lost if you turn around and say, "What are my core values?" Shit. I'm really good at my job, or good luck to you, because so is everybody else, or at least they're not going to say they're not. So so it's a complete process that starts with the 7 P's, because you have to, you can't just start here. You've got to you've got to understand and analyze your business. But more than that, you've got to do, you know, it all starts with a SWOT analysis, which sounds very basic and very simple.
For those who don't realize what a SWOT analysis is, can you just explain that?
So
it's
a very simple exercise that you write your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's a very simple and straightforward exercise, but quite enlightening. And it's the first step of this deep thinking that will help you understand. I'm not going to say your business. I'm going to say your opportunity, because you need to, your business, but everything comes. So I didn't, when we set up our values, yeah, they were very nice. But I didn't create them because it was part of the whole business plan. We'd identified the markets, we'd identified our customers, and we identified the opportunities, and we understood. We were trying to. We'd created this profile of what our customers were looking for, and we were filling that profile. And I'm afraid that's where some people might differ. You know, I'm very commercial. You know, the financial stability and future of the business is I was used to see as in the MD was my role, and this financial, that security and stability of my people comes from a result of that. So you know, the values were created as part of a commercial exercise, whereas some people may create them as a more honorable process, perhaps. But at the end of the day, this is a business. And if you're not going to make a decent return on your money, put it in something which will.
I love it when you said your differentiators there, you know, understanding what your key differentiators are, because it's a big one. Because yeah, we all migrate towards those words, aren't you know, describe yourself in 3 words. Well, I am honest, I am trustworthy, and the words that everyone picks. But I would love to see one day just someone's marketing slogan being like, "We're cowboys and we know it." Um, you'd never forget it. You may never buy from them, but you certainly would never forget it. But it's really good that because there's very little sort of like business support and advice out there for the pest management industry, and certainly people who are just starting up, or even people that have been going for years and years, and have been muddling through and kind of found this epiphanous moment in dribs and drabs. So explain to us a little bit more about this program that you'd put together to help people find their identity.
So obviously, since I've exited from NBC, I should perhaps close the loop on NBC to your listeners. The business went through obviously 30 years of development, and like I say, lucky enough to work with some very good people who helped the business progress. And we felt that, or you know, I was given, and I should actually point this out. So the business, the exit, obviously wasn't by chance. Again, we're back to the 7 Ps. The exit wasn't by chance, but was perhaps instigated. Well, it wasn't by chance. It was instigated by some research that suggested that values were high, and the logical thought process that I had was that that if I worked for another 5 years, I wouldn't increase the value because the values were high at this particular time. So it didn't make sense on, you know, it may on carrying on. It made sense to explore that exit, and I also felt that we'd achieved a lot of good things as a team. We did some amazing projects, some really, and we'd achieved, you know, this different business that was thriving, and I felt that a larger. So someone put there, I guess you always wanted to be a large company.
Yeah.
I always can I just quickly interrupt, because I've got a bit of a confession there. That was absolutely a question I was going to ask you, because I was convinced you were called National Bird Control, and I thought that's a ballsy thing to call yourself when you're a one-man band, isn't it?
Well, actually, your thought, as a company, we fought forever, because we were a pest control company. We did as much pest control as we did bird control. It was always about, it was in the end about 50-50. So you know, so yeah, people always did think of us as the bird control company, and I'm not surprising, because we did some great projects. But the business was always intended to be a national business, and it was always intended to, you know, I always intended to grow it as large as I could get it to exit, because I saw too many people. Less so nowadays, but it wasn't uncommon 10 years ago that the guy, when he retired, closed it or gave it to a member of staff. You know, there wasn't the acquisitions that they are now, and I didn't want that to happen to me. I put a lot of sweat, blood, and tears into the business, and I didn't want to think. I wanted to realize that work at some point. So it was always wanting to go full circle, create as big a business as I could, and compete with the people as we could, do as good a job as we could, and then exit it.
I mean, so that shows a tremendous level of foresight to, to set your company up with knowing that end goal is to sell it. Not to have a job for life, but to have a job as a stepping stone, so to speak, to set you up for the next phase of your career. Definitely does take some, mercantile. It's very mercenary, should I say, with that. But it's obviously done quite well. And I have to say, but before we move on from NBC and move on to the next phase of your master plan, I have to. I came and gave some training for you. I'm not sure if you were aware, many years ago. And the building that you had, your main HQ, it was right next to a zoo, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember
How long
delivering.
ago was that?
Oh, well, it would
Because
have
we
been
were
a
there
safe use of
twice.
Oh, okay. It was a safe use of rodenticides lecture, a basic use of rodenticides lecture. So it would have been post 2015. And it would have
Oh,
actually probably
okay.
been on
Yeah.
my consulting day. So 2020, 2021, round about then. And yeah, I remember starting the lecture and then being interrupted by howler monkeys, of all bloody things, just roaring. I opened the window because it was, a hot summer's day. And just had these bloody howler monkeys just screaming through the window at me. That was possibly the weirdest and yet most awesome interruption I've ever had to a lecture in my life. So you say
There's
you were
a
there
lovely
at the top of
story
it.
connected to the zoo, actually, because when the business started, I was working from home, and I was doing bird shows. You take every opportunity, don't you? You're trying to make a living. And I was doing bird shows at the zoo, and the owner of the zoo one day came up to me and he said, "I really like what you're doing. I want a falconry centre." And great guy called Martin Goymore. Is much older now, and he showed me this area and said, we could have a zoo, we could have a falconry centre here. And I remember him saying, so what do you reckon? And I said, well, we could do this, we could do that. And he said, I'll stop you there. He said, let's start with what you want and we'll go back from there. And it was fabulous time. I mean, this would be 96, and we had the largest vulture show in the country. We had something like 15 vultures flying at once. It was fabulous. But so I then left because the business outgrew the zoo, and then 25 years later came back.
So why did you come back? Just because you missed the place, or it was nostalgic, or what
Because the
happened there?
rent was cheap.
There we go. It was a fairly eclectic, strange old building. It was I seem to remember sort of like trying to find a flat wall to project onto was a challenge.
So
It
I've
was
got a
all
great cautionary tale, actually, and I'm going to share it with you because I think it's important that people, whilst I like to share the success of NBC because we achieved some fabulous things, and it's been good to me, and it's been a profitable exercise, and I hope that inspires people. But we used to sing social media where everything looks fabulous and everything looks easy, and all these gurus on there drive me mad. And life isn't like that. Life can really trip you up, and it can be fucking hard. And I had a period where it was really hard. And I grew the business, was very ambitious. I bought a business and it just didn't work. And I was over ambitious, and it didn't work. And we went from, I was very proud, for something like 25 years, we never had a year of where we lost money. And then all of a sudden, we lost 1.5 million in 1 year, and that was when 1.5 million was a lot of money. And
I mean, any year, £1.5 million is a lot of money. To be fair,
and that business had to shut, and it was really painful. And then COVID hit, So I was in a situation where I was in special measures with a bank, and I had to talk to the bank every week. And I was clinging on by my fingertips, and it was tough, but we had a great team, and everybody was amazing. And then COVID hit, and you just think, oh my God, what now? And it just shows you that the thing was, we tried to diversify, and we made a mistake, and it nearly impacted NBC, but the core business was fabulous and the people were great, and we just focused on what had made us successful in the first place. And the next year we made, I think, 1.3 million, then 1.5 million, then 1.7. And so it, and our previous year, best year before that, had been something like 600,000. So we went from nearly going bust, and I mean near that close, to achieving our best year ever by double. And it was 3 years after that I sold. So people should never ever give up. Have faith in the people around you, have faith in yourself, have a good plan, and execute, and be focused, and you'll be amazed what shit you can get yourself out of, but what you can also achieve.
I mean, so that'd be my next big question. And sorry, Sean, I'm jumping in all over the shop, and I'll let you ask some questions, I promise. But we talk so often, as you say before, and gurus, this is what it's like when it's good. This is how you become successful. This is how you become successful. This is how you get 1 million followers on Instagram. This is how, and it's all about that. But there's very little advice. It's sort of like, right, this is the mindset you need to put yourself in when it's all gone wrong. This is how you pick back up from scratch. This is what you do when the house of cards has come tumbling down. So what would be the advice from someone who has been in that position where, the only way is up, so to speak? What's the best bit of advice if you to go back 4 years from now, when you were just getting that news of those companies leaving, and obviously, it was not a good day. If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what would it be? What would be the advice be to get you through that year?
I think it would be have faith, and work. I don't think I ever, maybe, and there's probably people on here who were there at that time, but I don't actually ever believe us ever believing we would fail. I don't think that was really, I think we knew we were better than that. And I say we because a business isn't one person. What was vitally important, I was about to say what was vitally important was I had a very good accountant, but I had very good operations people. I had very good sales people. I had, and everybody worked together.
That's it. It's as you said at the very beginning, it's the team of people that you build that make the company at that point. It's more than
not at that point. At any point.
At any point, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Right, Sean.
I'm having this quandary in my head now. What makes a good accountant? My accountant's straight down the line. We had a VAT investigation. We didn't get it. We didn't have to give them a penny. Everything was done correctly. It was stressful enough, even though I knew I was doing everything right. But I feel like I'm giving every penny I make to the tax man at the minute. Like, it's like he knows what's in my bank and then gives it. If I've got 20 grand in my bank, my bill is 20 grand. And I'm not like, do you know what I mean? I put my tax away and and you're like, it just feels like he's ripping every penny off us to a point where it's taking my willing out because I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I fighting for this? For the government to take everything off us?
I know. It's painful, isn't it? You know, it really is. And
I'm not gonna lie, it's crippling me at the minute, like, because we are fluid, we've got money, etc., etc. But actually, for what we're doing, and we should have more, but he just keeps taking every penny off us, and then you think, do I get a bit more of a dodgy accountant? Is that what's wrong, or what? Like, what's going on?
So that's interesting, because I think people expect too much from accountants. So I know. So I had a really. He worked for me, so he was full time in the business. So he was really good, and I know that the new he was really good, but you have to work together. You know, he's not going to run your business for you, but he would give me the data and the information I needed to make informed decisions. So there's lots of things there which my brain suddenly fires up on, which is accounts don't need to be complicated, and I had massive spreadsheets and models. I'm big into modeling. I don't. I better rephrase that.
Like the little figurines, and yeah.
I'm big into understanding what's going to happen from the decisions I make before
Data
I make
trending.
data trending.
Yeah.
So I'm big into that. So people will run their business, and at the end of the year they go, the accountant said I've made some money. You know, you should know, you know, the accountant's job really is to just present your data to the tax man. And even then, you know, it should, so the financial planning and running of your company, you're going to have to do yourself or employ someone. And most people don't do either. And again, so this goes back to Innovator, where we're trying to build models. And I've just been working the last 2 weeks on trying to build a model, which again, Sean, you'd find very useful, where it helps you understand the targets and the KPIs that you need for your business to achieve your financial objectives. And so it's important to understand how much, you understand what you want to take from the business in a salary, what you want to take from the business as a profit, and you do need a profit. Even the guy working for himself needs to have a salary. You know, people, it's interesting. I talk to people and they say, I made 70% net profit. Well, that's impossible. You didn't make 70% net profit. It's because you didn't pay yourself is why you'd made 70% net profit. You know, you need to take a salary, and that needs to be accounted in your cost of sales to come out of your gross profit. I don't want to get too complicated.
I say this all the time. This is my one thing I say to people all the time. Are you profitable? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? What did you make last year? I made 50 grand. How much did it cost you to take you out of your business? 65. All right, so you didn't. You were minus 15. It just come out of your pocket. You just don't know it in man hours and love and care and time. Like, you're not profitable, are you? Like, it's difficult. We have this conversation all the time. I don't know how to say it to someone, because they'll talk to us about it, and I think, yeah, but like, how do you say to someone you're not running a profitable business when they are absolutely convinced because they put 35 grand in the pocket, they've made 35 grand's profit? Like, how do you do that?
No, I know. And it's quite interesting talking to people. So this leads us on to Inbovel. So, 30 years of running a business, making mistakes. And And the good thing with scale is you get to make a lot of mistakes, but you get to find what works and what doesn't. And actually, we used to give a lot of impact. We used to try and empower the various departments. And I franchised for a period, so you had to give the support to the franchisee to build his business. And then after that, I took those lessons of how to manage the franchisees, and almost our contract managers, our team leaders operated as almost as an individual business. So we would give them the tools in which they could manage their business centers, so that all those 30 that experience I'm trying to put into Invervale to help support these smaller businesses. There are a lot of really good people out there. This is a great time for people to grow their business. As I said previously, you had no opportunity to exit. Now you've got lots of opportunity to exit. You could build a business just as a pure investment opportunity at the moment. You wouldn't have to keep it particularly long, and someone would buy it. And probably do a decent multiple. So it's a good time for pest control businesses. There's a lot of disarray in those large corporate brands. They don't seem particularly different to each other to me again. So there are people there. It's a good time to be in pest control. It's a good industry to be in. And I think and a lot of people have entered the industry, as is all trades. They enter it because they're good at what they do often. And like me, I didn't do particularly well at school. And so they don't have, they're good at what they do, but they don't understand the business side, the financial side, and all these. What's a brand? I don't need a brand. What's this? I don't need that. I just do what I do, and I do it well. And it doesn't, and we're trying to create so Invervale is an online platform to support initially just pest control trade. But the idea is that it will support all trades, and it's an online platform and community. So there's memberships, and the membership will initially be free, where people can have access to. There's obviously an online community, a bit like a LinkedIn board, but it'll only be for pest control business owners. There's no members of staff on there. No, so people will be able to communicate with each other if they so wish. There's a resource library where all these tools and templates are there, and it's taking me forever to translate them onto the website, but we're getting there. We hope to launch in January, where there'll be so many templates for business planning, for proposals, for costing, for there's so many different and there'll be a resource for those members on there. There'll also be a job board. Now this is interesting. There's going to be a job board on there where, and I'm saying this like it's going, and this is a vision. It's beyond the vision. It's actually live now. You just can't see it because we're not happy with it yet. So there's a job board on there where we hope that we can get the engagement of companies that tend to subcontract a lot. So instead of the likes of Orkin or Virgo or someone like that who are looking for subcontractors phoning around, they can post some work on there that they need, and members can respond to it, and we can connect those two people together. And the same with the members. They might have a job that they need a second man on, and they don't have a second man. They can post that on there, and members can respond, and they can engage with each other and organize rates. Also, members will then get the opportunity to interact with advisors. And then there are programs. So there's an academy where it will be evening sessions as a group to learn some business essentials. And then there's 2 growth programs, which basically we will work with them to create a business profile and a business plan, budgets, targets, all of the things we've talked about to help that business be as successful as it can. And an accelerate program, which just means there's more interaction with the likes of myself and the advisors, which will be linked to the business. So we hope that this will be something that there's a free element to it where people can help themselves if they're so inclined and try these exercises on their own. And then there's a more interactive element where they can get some specific support.
I don't get it.
No,
I don't
sorry?
get it. I don't get it. I get exactly what you're saying, and I can see the value. But in the back of my head, I think, why? Is because is this I've made me money when I sold NBC, and I'll be good to the industry. Is this and there's other people involved, and it's like there's obviously a large cost associated with doing what you're doing, and not just in finance, but in time and in love and in energy and stuff like that. So like, and then I listen to the 7 Ps and the plan into sale and all that, and it's like, what? Be honest, what's behind it? What's the drive?
So to build a platform that'll sell.
I like it.
Okay. So in that
like
trajectory, building a platform that'll sell, how do you encourage other people? How do you encourage other people to grow? Because that's clearly what you're doing. And so, do by leading, teach by doing. The people that are joining you, what would be the number one piece of advice for them to grow their business? I say number one because that's far too sort of like reductive. What would be the collection, the best bits of advice you could give someone to actually build their businesses up to a point where it would be attractive to the Orkins, the Rentikills, the Pest professionals? What is it all about? Just slamming as many contracts as you can together? Is it all about saving money in the bank? What is it that they can do to make themselves take that growth that's going to make them attractive?
So I think the method is what I've developed over the years. But what's absolutely important is everybody wants different things from their business. So your plan and your strategy needs to be directly linked to what you want to achieve. And it may be, someone may be sitting there going, I don't want much. I just want to earn a living. Well, good for you. That's fine. And pest control is a great place for you to do it. But if you don't, but you need to, you're sure you've got bills. I'm sure you have a minimum amount of business that you need, a minimum amount of income that you need. So you do have an objective. Your objective is to pay the mortgage, or your objective is to have enough money to eat at the end of the week. So, so you still need a plan and a strategy that ensures that you will achieve that. Or on the other hand, it may be to develop to a regional to national business to an ultimate sale or exit, in which case you have a different strategy, but you all need to plan for that. So the biggest piece of advice, and someone said something about how what tips do you have on growing? The 7 Ps. Everything is connected. There is no one golden ticket. But what I would say to people is it ain't that hard. It's not that difficult if you can go through a logical process and understand certain key elements that are instrumental in determining your success, if you can identify those, satisfy those, and create a strategy that will see you realize them, you will achieve your objective, whether that's to have an Indian takeaway every Friday, or to reach an exit. And on the subject of exit, it comes to a valuation, and that's interesting because a lot of people get that wrong. That said, every potential acquirer is going to value a business potentially differently, but the one thing they're all really going to do is to value on your ability to generate cash, because ultimately you have to show a return for that investment. And in basic terms, that's your ability to generate money. So if you're generating 50 grand profit and you're paying yourself 50 grand, your business is worth nothing.
Yep. That's worth nothing to anyone else. So
nothing to anyone else. That's a very good point, Alex, because if your objective is to maintain your lifestyle, well, I'd say even then it's risky, isn't it? Because you're on a knife edge. It'd be nice to have some contingency in that.
Some contingency for the tax man to take advantage of. Sorry, just getting in there before Sean. But I mean, it is interesting. They say so many of these times, and we have spoken to people in the past before. We've had people come on, and we've spoken about selling companies or building companies, and overwhelmingly, a lot of people turn around and say, "I'm just happy where I am. I'm just happy doing my thing. I'm just happy moving on." But you're right in saying that we are at a really interesting time. We've gone through these boom and bust periods before. Anyone that's been in an industry more than 10 years will realize that we have this expansion and contraction event happens all the time. But it used to only happen between 3 companies snaffling people up and then sort of like everyone breaking away. Now, at my last count, I think we're up to 6, maybe 7 of these venture capitalist companies or large servicing companies that snaffing people up, and it's creating a bit of a vacuum in the middle. And nature, economy, God abhors a vacuum at the end of the day, and so there is opportunity to move into those spaces. So there's not only just the opportunity to sell if you so wish, but there is that hole within the donut that you can push yourself into. So it's not all about selling your business. If you want to grow, there is definitely space in the industry now to step into those shoes, unless I'm being wildly naive.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's a great opportunity, and anyone who goes into business on their own, whether they just want to earn a salary, never want to employ someone, or someone who wants to grow into a large business, deserves the same respect, because they're all taking the same risks and the same in the same situation. It's just an element of scale, and so anyone who goes into business should be applauded. The pest control industry is great because it's a distressed purchase often. Actually, the rates are bloody good. There's low barriers to entry. If anyone says to me, I'm thinking of going into the pest control industry, I'm like, yeah, it's great fun. I was talking to Sean earlier about some of the challenges that he's been solving for customers. And yeah, I miss that. It's great when you're presented with a challenge for a customer and you solve it. There's so much job satisfaction from the owner operator up, and it's a great industry to be in. But I do stress that it's business planning doesn't have to be complicated. It's I don't want people to think this is what I'm trying to do. You present someone with a spreadsheet or an exercise and like, oh fucking hell, it's like being back at school. and it's often most pest control pest control operators aren't those types of people. I wasn't. And but it's still it will still benefit you going through a certain process, because you're going to work less hard. You're going to be more secure, more stable, and that's going to be less stressful, better on your mental health. And it's just by going through a few simple steps and exercises. And my challenge, and Graham's actually online here, my challenge is my co-director. My challenge is, I have these great ideas and I produce this spreadsheet and I'm like, look at this. And he goes, what the fuck does that mean? And it's got to be something that anyone can understand, anyone can interpret, and people can fill in very easily. So that's why this is taking so long to launch in Bevelle, because I'm trying to make it that it will be useful to everybody and of value to everybody, and mean that their businesses and they are more likely to be successful.
Yeah, and it's a really great thing, because it's such a you look at the big course providers at the moment throughout the industry, and it's all talking about here's this practical course on mold trapping. Here is a toolbox talk on your crew CPD points. Here is this. It's all orientated towards the doing of the job. The doing of the job, not the supporting of the job behind there. We kind of leave that to other people, and we are a very specific industry. We have very specific wants and needs and requirements, which currently brings me on to, it would be my last question, second to last question. But for those who are wanting to expand, for those who are wanting to take that next step up, and this is a question that we debate all the time, what should that second or third member of staff be? Should it be a really good technician? Should it be an administrator? What role should the next, when you go from a one person business to a 2-person business to break into that micro business role, who should the next person be? What role should they take in that business from your point of view?
Whatever your plan identifies.
Oh.
Again, it is that simple. And this is the challenge people get to. If you go through a logical thought process, and it doesn't need to be that onerous, the plan will tell you what you need. You can model it. I hate overhead. Overhead kills businesses, and and I look at the when you think, I used to figure that for every member of staff I needed in the office, I needed that meant 2 people were going to work in the field for free. So think very deeply about any overhead, and make sure everything gives value. And you'll only be able to identify that by going through a proper thought process to assess the wants and needs and opportunities of your business. And like I say, business planning has got to a point, if I talk business planning to someone, they're like, oh, I don't fucking know, that sounds like school, that sounds like it. Honestly, there are just a few simple key elements that can be identified with a simple process, and the start of which takes us right back to the start of this conversation, which is a SWOT. Which is just get a piece of paper, draw a square, go strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, list them, and then make your decisions based upon that. If that's as simple as you want it to be.
It does. It's a fantastic tool. I've done them before. I've had a look at them. It does require a certain level of self-awareness, though, to be able to adequately list both your strengths and your weaknesses in a way that is objective rather than subjective. You don't want to go, full Trump on this. Sean.
Honestly, these are the ones I love. Like, I don't have to drag anything out here. I don't have to look it. It's just there. I don't know how there's certain people who seem to have a feeling for what the audience wants, or what I presume the audience wants. Maybe this is what I want, I don't know, but without even having to say. And it's like, it's just easy. Like, I love these podcasts. I love them. I get them once in a blue moon, and it's like, I almost feel like a spectator. It's the best thing in the world. I haven't had loads of them over a while, but we've had a few. And it's great when you just sort of, it's not even wind you up and let you go. It's just like, just open the doors and just let them out, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how it feels. And I love them. So I just think, I don't feel like I have to ask any questions. I feel like I've just got to say to you, tell them what they want to hear, guys. And I'll just sit and listen and be one of the audience tonight. These are the ones that I'll listen to again. I'll listen to this podcast probably 4 or 5 times, because it's odd being the host, because when you watch them back, you don't realize how much you miss, even though you're the host. It's weird. It's weird to watch them back and I think, oh yeah. Read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure you've heard of it. And that's exactly the same. I can read it 4 or 5 times, and then you read it and you go, oh yeah, didn't pick up on that bit, missed that bit. And I feel like this is going to be one of them podcasts that I'll watch and listen to again. There's certain things you've said tonight where I'm like, overheads kill business. You won't, honestly, I promise you will not believe this. I've literally just had a conversation with Hugh today where I said, I'm going to go and do a bit of bean counting, and I'm going to smash my overheads, because I've worked out I can save myself 35 grand a year by making about 3 or 4 decisions. And it's
the other thing I'll leave with your audience is, and what I found very powerful was the last is trying to get one more job a day. So if you can do one, and just motivate yourself to do one extra job a day, or get your people to phone up and say, I've finished, I want one more job, or you do one more job, that will generate so much profit for your business, because that's just profit generally. That's where your money is. And it's taking that mindset of getting people to just do that one more job, just one more job.
How do you breathe that into your staff then? Or is it like, is it again that entrepreneur thing? Is it in them?
No.
And do you have
so that's a really so NBC was built on this topic, which I don't think is in place anymore, because it's like it blows a lot of people away and they struggle with it. But it was down to, so just briefly, because I know we're the time is coming on. So so I had to make the business very profitable very quickly, and so I worked very closely with my accountant, and we reintroduced something that we had introduced successfully in the past, which was every business should understand what it needs to. So, and again, I've got a model for this which will be free to people, but so if you take out what you want to earn and the profit that you need, and then your different costs and stuff, you need to work out what every individual person who is a revenue earning person, so a working person, needs to earn per day, per man. So and that's probably for most businesses going to be about £450 a day at least. Yeah, around £450 a day. So it's very easy for someone, when you know that figure, to manage your finances, because if you know what your target figure is per revenue, per person, per day, when you're doing the scheduling, you can make sure you've booked in enough work to do that. You can you can very quickly do the sums and look at what you've invoiced that week, divide it by the number of people, divide it by the working days, and work out how close you've got to it. You don't need an accountant. It's very, very simple way of doing it. And so how NBC motivated, we recognized that if we could get people to achieve this a certain, and by the way, guys, when you first do this, have a stiff drink, because you'll be shocked. There'll be some people who are earning £150 a day. Well, that's not making anyone any money, but that's a starting point, and you can work from there. So we recognized that we needed this. We also recognized that the last job of the day was where the profit was. £50, is probably going to be 50. That's going to be where the profit is. So we incentivized the teams according to what their productivity was. So it wasn't difficult. That we knew that our costs were at a certain level of revenue per day per man. So everything above it was profit. So if everything above it is profit, we can share. We can share that element of profit. And so that person knows if he does that extra job or encourages his teammate to stay on with him and do that extra job, the guy who wants to go home early, and we rewarded them as teams. So the whole team would be incentivized by the revenue per man per day they produced. It also encouraged making sure that works were completed before the end of the month. It also encouraged that the invoicing was done before the end of the month. It's a very simple tool, but absolutely massively impacts the performance of your business.
Did you have people fighting to be on different teams? Just if you were team incentivizing, it just thought that, did you have, Alpha Squad at the front, and then you had, if you ever watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like the Hitchcocks and Scullys just sat at the back in, happy to freewheel. Nobody wanted to be on their team because they were bringing the team quota down. I mean, did you find things like that, or was it a healthy competition across all groups?
Well, they were a team, so they were a regional team. So who was in their team was who was in their team. And actually, it was great for me because it was self-policing, because the guys, they weren't going to let, Dave slack off if it meant that they weren't going to get their bonus. So they all motivated each other. And actually, it was a great, it's a profit share at the end of the day, and it worked really well, because also the primary aim of that revenue per day per man equates to what your revenue target is, essentially, but it also maps your profitability, because that if you achieve that revenue, it'll achieve that profit. So I knew in advance what I was going to make each month. The whole company did. The whole company knew. The whole company knew if we failed our RPM target, we would be losing money, but we never did.
Awesome. That's so beautifully brought us up almost precisely to the 1 hour 30 mark there. I mean, that's incredible. Thank you for all of this. I mean, you can like you say, you can tell it's a good podcast when Sean says 3 words, because he's just sat there absorbing.
Honestly, I promise you, I honestly feel like you've been sitting watching me. I promise you, that's how it feels. Like the stuff you're talking about, I'm like, oh yeah. Like,
well, on that note, actually, we're looking. I've been working as I build this, these models and these supportive tools and templates. I've been building. I've been working with a couple of businesses. I'm looking at a couple more businesses that I can work as with, not as a case study, but run through the exercise with, to proof it before it not necessarily goes to market, but before it comes live. So if there's anyone who would like to go through a growth exercise with me, please message me, and we can go through that. And it's free of charge. It just will mean, you know, what I'll be looking for is you being critical of the documents and the tools and the support that I'll be giving you, so I can refine it to make it benefit everybody.
I've got one last question for you. It's very easy for me to think that this is just like some divine intervention, and what you're saying just happens to apply to me at this time. That would be the easy thing. In your experience, is it just relative to everybody that's in this sort of, you know, the 2, the 3, the 5-man band or whatever it is that you're talking about? Or do you think this is just a sort of divine intervention?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. Can you give that again?
Like, I'm sitting listening
a
to this.
moment of serendipity.
Yeah. Or is it, or do you think everybody who's in my position is probably sitting listening to this thinking exactly the same as me, thinking, fucking hell, like, it's a bit of a, it's a bit too close for comfort. Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's how it feels.
I go back to what I was saying. Everybody deserves to be applauded for running their own business, whether they be just them, or whether they employ people. So, and they have normally gone through that route, started that journey, for a variety of reasons, but generally because they're good at what they do. You know, I think, and it goes right back to what you said about, you know, what's the skill of an entrepreneur, or something along those lines. And I said something like identifying the skills of other people. So you can't be good at everything, but what will make you successful is making sure that you have good people doing other things within your business. So I am shit at pest control. I used to enjoy doing it, but I know this is Gary Butcher's on here, and he used to come around and wipe up after me. But everybody needs to surround. They can't be good at everything. And I've had the benefit of scale, working with a lot of really good people. And that's helped me from the position that I've been in, because I've been lucky enough that I've been overviewing all these good people, and I've seen what they're good at, what they're not, what influences the business performance. And I've been able to develop that method, and understand, develop that method. And that's what I'm trying to do with Imbervale, is to put it into a scenario, because there's so many people, you know, we're applauding the people who have started their own business or are running their own business, but there's so many who really should, and several of them on here right now who really should, but maybe are scared to. Well, if I can create a platform that that fills in the blanks for them and gives them a model that makes that, I mean, and Alex, you talked about risk, that reduces the risk to a level that makes them feel comfortable that they can make that step, and that step becomes a successful step. That's great for this economy, it's great for their families, and it's great for everybody. And it means that the 30 years of effort and work, you know, it's satisfying for me to know that the 30 years of effort and work have resulted in me not having to do anything and just play with cars. But it's but if it would be even more satisfying if others can benefit and they can be in the same position.
I like that mindset. It's a small industry. It's a community of, you know, largely, broadly speaking, like-minded folks. You can have a big impact. You can have a big impact on a lot of people, on a lot of lives, by just, you know, putting that knowledge out there. You know, there's my father would say, there's no pockets in a shroud. The same goes for knowledge at the end of the day. If you take it with you, then nobody wins. So yeah, it's commendable as to what you are doing with that. Right. One final question, but from you to us. Do you have a question for either Sean or I, for this evening. Is there something that you'd like to ask either of us? A question to...
Oh wow. I hadn't really thought about that, because I knew it'd all be coming the other way. Well, other than thank you for what you're doing, because I think you guys are doing a fabulous job, because it can be lonely out there, can't it, running a business and having a community, and I love your warts and all and your down to earth approach to it, because that makes people feel they're not alone and they can engage, and I think you're doing a good job, so I think it's great.
I have to say, it was I've met a couple of people at Pest Tech just gone by, and it was two guys, and they turned around and said, yeah, it showed us that there was a world outside, and one of them was just like, yeah, I like the scruffy pest control, and the other guy's like, yeah, no, I like the other kind. So it was quite interesting to see sort of like the whole yin and yang definitely does work.
I think I've definitely coined that phrase though, haven't I? Scruffy pest control.
Scruffy pest control. You have. Yeah.
I'll have to write an article on scruffy pest control, won't I? I'm not going to write an article on scruffy pest control in the slightest, but I tell you what I'd like to do before you answer the questions, because we always miss this bit. Couple of comments here, and I think this is testament, isn't it? People who've left you and have come to watch this, and the comments they've said are, having worked for you, John, the team leaders were exactly that, and the team leaders work with the teams, and they would muck in as much as the team members, and they all just gelled. And then Matt Smith said, that was from Sarah Calderwood up in Scotland.
Remember
and
Sarah?
Then Matt Smith said, hello, all excellent podcast guys. My best years being employed was working for JD. They were challenging, but we created something special and sustainable at NBC. Good luck for the future, John. I'm sure Imberville will fly.
Definitely. Well, there's someone who, when they walked in the room, you could tell was going to do well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've just totally enjoyed it. It's like, yeah. Although I think this comment probably says that there's more than just me thinking like this. From Davy Brown. Very interesting. Definitely food for thought. Cheers. I speak to Davy a little bit, and I know he'll be on a similar wavelength to me, although he's a lot further on the journey. Yeah. You'll keep me awake at night for several weeks. This.
Nightmares, terrifying visages. Right, so
nice
on to our
mind, isn't it?
It's anyone who has, Sean and I have discussed this in the car driving many times. There is those out there who mindset towards growth, and you never
Dogs had enough, hadn't it? I'll start with one of the three questions. The first one is, have you had a good time on the podcast?
It's been great. It's it's lovely to share the experience. There were some very challenging times with NBC, but as I said, we achieved a lot of great things, and it's nice to share that with people.
I'll take second one out and take last one, because I think we know the answer to this. Give us a shameless plug.
Hey?
Give us a shameless plug.
A shameless plug?
Yeah. Like you'd put a plug on the radio, like you'd call up and someone would just blurt out that you need to go to the Mattress King on 4th and Down. Give us a shameless plug.
Okay, what of Imberville?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the Imberville website is currently live, although there is only the front-facing element that you can see. So have a look at the website. Express an interest in the programs which will be coming live, and the membership which will be live in January. And if you want to support us with the development of some of the programs, there's a to go through some of the, as I said, the trials, get in touch.
Lovely stuff. And so the last question for the evening is, who would you like to spend an evening listening to? Who would you like us to put in your seat next for the podcast?
Naomi Campbell.
We've tried. She's just always busy on a Friday. It's just really, really awkward. And if
The
we ask
police had
again,
to
she's
send
going to
Alex
get
a
an
couple of
awkward.
messages telling him to stop emailing, didn't Al?
I mean, it was embarrassing for everyone involved. I mean, she just wouldn't leave me alone. No, so I mean, anyone pest or pest adjacent, do you think would make an interesting?
Oh, I tell you, that would be a good one. Dan England.
Ooh, I'm not even sure if he's still on this. Is he still kicking around anymore? Is he off enjoying his like I'm trying to think of the right word now, but he's enjoying his money, out on a boat somewhere. I know he had a boat.
Perhaps, but he had a good journey. I can remember him starting as Gull Stop, and he got his opportunity and he took it. Fair play to him, but it'd be quite the result of his exit is obviously quite controversial, but he certainly put a lot of effort in front of that people are not aware of. I think I've got a funny feeling Gull Stop even went bust. So again, it's another opportunity. Don't give up.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of their original warehouses. The Pest. Anyone who's been to the Pest Fest warehouse is this huge thing now. It's 2 or 3 warehouses long, and it's got space for another 2 there. But the first warehouse, or maybe not the first, but one of the first warehouses, was on a little marina in Chichester. It was just a tiny little thing, wasn't it? Hardly big enough to hold the people and the cars parked outside. So again, progression.
But Dan was always so again, and we worked really well with Terry later, but Dan and his brother, is it Chris? So and this is just very quickly, but this is interesting. I used to get Kilgerm, all these different people coming up and trying to get us to take on their products, take on their, to buy our supplies from them. And they would always come up. See, I'm not a pestie. So they would always come up and go, look at this latest rat box. And I was like, it's like, or we'll give you an extra 0.5%. And Dan got it, and Terry, I think, who was there at the time, and and I said, I don't care about your discount. I want you to help my business grow. And we had a long chat. And those who buy off PestFix, I don't know if they use the PestFix portal and the online stuff. But I said to PestFix that I wanted something that would monitor, because we had trouble monitoring stock on the vans, and over ordering was a killer. And I said to PestFix, I want you to think outside the box. I'm not interested in your discount. I'm not interested in these products. Everyone's the same. You can't put a fag packet between them. But I want a portal which will give me reports that are a press of a button of what's in everyone's vans, and I can monitor what they're buying. And they built that. So if anyone's using that portal through PestFix, it was designed through NBC.
I remember that being advertised. It was a few years ago, wasn't it? 4 years ago. I remember it.
But that was again a bit of alternative thinking on their part, entrepreneurial thinking as well.
I mean, it definitely is. Can you reorder from the portal?
Matt England,
yes,
his brother.
Lovely stuff. Well,
and actually,
John,
Richard's put that comment, and I think he was part of the people who were helping develop the website.
There we go. John, we've gone well over time now, so we're going to have to sort of like bring this to a close. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight, and I really think that you've started, a pebble rolling down a hill at the moment, and it will soon become an avalanche with Invervel. So a huge amount of luck. I think you're going to have a lot of people reaching out to you after this. I have to say, anyone who's listening to this that does wish to reach out to John and his team at Invervel, just mention the podcast. Just let them know how you heard about us. That'll be, for nothing more than my own edification. There, that would be quite something, just to know how much of an impact that we'd have. But there's a huge amount of love out on the podcast. Lots of people saying thank you very much. Sean is going to have the 1,000-yard stare for the next 2.5 weeks. So thank you for that. But from all of us, I'm going to have to say good night.
Good night.
We'll see
Thank
you
you.
all next week. So bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Beauties and Beasties podcast.